point with the trade-off is relax, have some fun, it's yours, right? And so that's the last piece of your anti-bonking strategy, hiring decisions. Kind of a big deal. I had an uncle who had some land clearing. He was developing some property, and he hired a logger to do the job, clean it up. And eventually the logger called him up and said, "Oh, I think we're pretty much wrapped up. I'm going out to the property." And he was taken aback. "This is done to you?" You know, in his head. But he didn't call up his original logger. He called up a different logger to come finish the job. And in my head, I was like, "Well, why do that? That's just extra money. Make the guy finish." And his opinion was that, look, I made a hiring decision. I made a mistake. I could get logger A back out there. I could hound him, harangue him, make lists. But in the end, I'm just going to get frustrated. It's going to be frustrating for him. And I'm not going to get the job that I want. I mean, we're so far apart. So he just chalked it up to experience. And so that's an example of why hiring, figuring out how you roll is kind of a big deal. It'll really make or break your experience. So there are your 3 anti-bonking tips. What are they? Go ahead, I need to know, Lauren. What that? Oh, yeah, so that's the trade-off, saying no and having fun. Yep. Of course, we have hiring, and then what was the first one? Decision company, yep. Hydration. Okay, design build process. You only got one slide here. This is pretty generic. Whenever we start on something we're going to build or whatever our dreams are, we start the ideation phase. It can even go higher because it's so fun to think about the possibilities of what can be. And then we get an education. Maybe we figure out that, you know, our expectations are beyond our means, or is it going to work, whatever. So there can be a letdown. But eventually you get to some sort of a team, whether it's close acquaintances, professionals, whatever, that are going to help you move forward. And at this point, it feels like, okay, there's some hope. Then you go to initial design, like, finally, and there's this euphoria. But then you got to refine the design, you got to bring expectations. Never first choice, you can't have first choice with everything. Expectations, take a little dip. The final design is like, might not be happy with everything because you've had to make some compromise here and there. But, okay, decisions made. So it's kind of a little boost. Then the building, that's going to be kind of up and down from delays to now a product isn't ready and more decisions and maybe decision fatigue and overruns or surprises. All that has to be dealt with. And so you got to kind of be prepared for that mentally. But what we've noticed is when people finally are in, the dust is settled, and you give them a month or two after they're in, everything's good. Generally ends well. Does anyone have a similar experience? Does that fit your guys' perspective? George, you're smiling.
All too common.
All too common. Okay. It's going into timber styles, and we're going to talk about floor plans. One thing to look for as we're going through this, 7 timber design sins. So this one is just fast and furious, good enough. The way to avoid that one is to simply turn over more stones. Look for more ideas. Too overpowering and too underpowering kind of ties in with turning over stones and figuring out ideas. But that's about proportion, paying attention to context. You could have a small house with a huge porte cochere on it. And its porte cochere might be designed right, but in context, just really doesn't fit. And then the posts themselves, one common mistake is really skinny posts that don't have the visual mass, ground. And the awkward volume, I kind of refer to that in a bigger context. And then the last minute solutions, this happens a lot for people going, if they want timber framing, and they're talking to the builder and their designer. By the time, or George can attest to this, by the time you've got the set of plans with the closets in the right place, the flow in the kitchen and the bathrooms and the bedrooms and the square footage and kind of the estimated cost, by the time you finally got your fingers around that and you're closing in on it, the last thing you want to think about is timber design. You just throw some placeholders in there, figure it out later. It just, and I don't, there's a lot to figure out in the full home plan. And then the builder, for his part of it, to go too deep into timber design is like, it's gonna slow things up. It might even jeopardize the sale. So put in a number and hopefully the framer will cover it. And then what happens, and so off the shelf connect, that's kind of obvious. Anything that looks Home Depot is. What happens is you get something like this. This is a project I drove by. It was, I don't know who built it, but I'd say somebody did a pretty good job when they're going on a wing and a prayer. They're not drawing anything up. They're not putting any time into it. They simply are given some wood and say, hey, make something look good. I think it looks fairly good. Now, if this were a blueprint and this job were landed in our laps, here's some of the things that I would try. I'm going to switch slides here. Okay, one of the things going on here is the garage is a little bit powerful, kind of like it's kind of looming up on you. And then the definition here is kind of almost too airy. It's all right. So one of the first things that I try to do is define the entry better. I might even do a little taper on the outside of the post that makes things look wider when you're looking at it more stable. So an entry like so, and then probably do just a little Dutch hip. So this would be rough. With the post here, they're probably not embellished with any angles because maybe the stone even a little bit lower because you want to really create a hierarchy that catches your eye here. But then maybe some sort of little timber accent in the gable there. And now this is kind of a unified, balanced piece, catches your eye. Then I would want to minimize this and make it look more proportional. So things that have worked in the past are to simply lower the garage roof. So this roof comes down a little bit and tucks in. And another thing that fixes this looming, yeah, welcome. We got some chairs in back, we got chairs up here. Come on in. We got some scheduled latecomers, no punishment necessary. Okay. All right, there's some on the wall too, Bert. We've got two Berts in the company. There's some chairs, some white chairs right back on the wall. And so one thing that fixes this top-heavy feeling is simply to reverse. See, these corbels here have kind of a triangle that's short on the back, and simply to reverse that. Bring them taller here in the front. And that really helps that top-heavy feeling. Another thing that would help here is to bring the arch up. So the timber's here, and the arch starts a little bit taller, and maybe even a little bit more curve to the arch. And there's less mass, and it feels a little bit more elevated. So then that roof would go back like so, come down, just have a little roof step there. But that would be some things that have worked in the past and things that we try. You don't really know how things are going to work until they're modeled up. In fact, I had a home project where I tried to skip modeling, the 3D design. College children go without shoes type of thing. But some people stopped by right when I was in the middle of the project, and they were asking me some questions. And as I started to explain what I was doing, I realized, ooh, I've got some blind spots, some things I hadn't thought about. And that's when the alarm bells went off, and I said, well, maybe I better practice what I preach. Okay, here's a project that illustrates a lot of this design and balance. So you can kind of see the before and then the after. So what do you guys see that is different aside from the timbers? But when we talk about the canvas prep with roof changes and that sort of thing. The entry, yeah, we added the entry. What else? What's that? Well, there's still 3 dormers back here, but there is a change in the dormers. You're right about that. That's size of the window. Yep, the window is shrunk so we can get a steep pitch on that front entrance. Landscaping. Yep, that was all us. Size of the posts. So it's kind of it's so amazing. It's something that really blows our skirts and we get excited about it. When you can change the looks of stuff, just out the footprint and just the roof lines and that sort of thing. If you'll notice here, these dormers are all the same size. Over here, that dormer is bigger. So this was just built out with some false little hollows there. So this dormer then overframe. And the reason that we did that was to create hierarchy. Then this pokes up a little bit more and kind of emphasizes this is going to catch your eye right off the bat. And also this one has the timber truss. These ones only have the corbels. So that again makes this, when your eye can just pop and find that hierarchy and balance, that's beauty when your mind doesn't have to struggle at what to look at. And then this, this type of arch in the post, that's kind of more of the timber design and making sure that fits and flows. A little bit of trivia. This particular arch didn't come together until we put these little bottom chords underneath it. You see it's kind of it's hard to see in the picture, but it's got a sub bottom chord that looks like this. And then the other bottom chord goes up and over, and you got that same thing repeating on the other side. But that really helped that come together. And then the knee braces to kind of create an archway, a welcoming piece. And there's the front on piece of that. You can see the arch, the through tenon. But the posts are on the same exact spot, and so very rewarding to work on these kind of projects. And you've rang the bell when somebody tells you that isn't even the same house. And there's a timber package. Kind of a small little bit for such a dramatic change, right? Yeah. Okay, so here's a compact floor plan. About 1,200 square feet.
Yep.
Yeah. And for this particular client, we didn't have much for driving directions. Just really skinny directive. But it was going to be small. This is an ADU on acreage. And because it's so small and they wanted a couple bedrooms in that, it really makes the design part of it easy because you're just kind of going for as small as possible and still being functional. So your bathrooms, you're trying to eliminate hallways, your bathrooms and bedrooms are kind of just about as big as you dare. This is obviously a master. But so things kind of fell together quick. And one thing that we've noticed with timber frame plans is we call it kind of the mother. And that is some sort of outdoor living entry, the guts of the home kind of being in the center. with bedrooms or garages somehow organized off of either side. And that's something we've seen time and time again. In this particular case, because of the property, the entrance is here. The hallway is relatively short because this is so small. They do have a lot of covered area, and this is built in California. So they had almost small windows here. They had well, you'll see it here in a bit, but everything was, this was south. This side is south, and there's very little glass. And so it's opposite of what we do here. You know, we're looking for the sun. And this is the north side, looking at the north side here. So that the whole veranda piece, there's small square footage, but in California, most of the year, you'll be able to have people over if you want, so kind of flexible that way. And there's the timber package. Mostly on the outside, with some timbers supporting the roof. Here's that cupola roof with the windows, and that's to the north again.
Most cases.
Okay, this was a home designed in the country. It looks like it could be a city lot. There's a basement we're not showing here just to kind of keep things moving. But this was just on a little knob. They didn't have a big building envelope. But what do you guys notice on this plan? Or what do you like? What's some things that you notice? I'm just kind of curious what your eyes are seeing. Is it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have this is the main level here. The entry's right there. And then this is the second story here with a kind of a loft. And that's open to the bottom.
Main floor is very open.
Main floor is open. And it's also dedicated to pretty much, there's one room here that's maybe a flex room office, but most of it is living space because it's 3 levels and small footprint. So you're not getting that wings off the side. And this is a modern timber frame style. I can show you here on the next. There's kind of the before and after. One particular, so I can tell you a little story about modern. Maybe 12 years ago, maybe further ago, I could see that modern style was becoming vogue, kind of starting to be a thing. And I started to worry about my livelihood. You know, timber framing is generally rustic and that sort of thing. And would I be in business in 5, 10 years? Well, it turns out that modern timber framing style has become my second favorite. It's just so fun to do. It just gives you a little bit more leeway to try little zany things and things that kind of delight in a surprising way. One of those things, and this goes for any design, but with any style, but using these stones like this, it kind of connects the finished space to the outdoor space. It's not cheap to fit posts to an organic shape like that and to handle those rocks and get them in, but I love that. It's really cool. And it's just, you end up epoxying all thread in and connecting, and it's a great way to lose money. Yeah. So this modern roof here changes. It's got a little a little cricket in there to shed the water, but it comes up and it kind of has some energy that invites you in. Any questions on this one? And there's the timber package. Inside is pretty cool little design for that loft and how the floor is kind of, it's held up. These posts here didn't look right until we got a nice little taper and it looked like arms uplifting. supported with the cable, a little box beam, all kind of fit into that loft area. If you can visualize that, but it's kind of cool space. Okay, is this plan more visible? What do you like about this plan? Anything jump out at you? There's one thing the owner said, looking at this plan, that he wished he would have done different. 2 kitchens? Yep. Yep. They do a lot of catering. Cedar plank salmon is their specialty. Cedar plank salmon. They do a lot of kits. So that was we worked on this with another architect. He did a fabulous job working this out. One thing that's a little unique about this, well, let me tell you first, there's one thing the owner wished that he'd have done different. It has to do with the dining room. Any guesses? He wished that he would have brought this out, because when they extend their table and they have a whole bunch of people over, it would have made it nicer for big Thanksgiving and those meals and that sort of thing. But one thing that was unique about this, they originally, his dream was the timber frame great room, that big, tall, so you're all familiar with that, you've seen it. That was one thing that he really wanted. But he also had his square footage, he wanted to keep it to a certain size. And when things stacked upstairs, it just didn't work to have, you were just gonna have wasted square footage to try to capture that. And so one of the fixes was to have the steps. So this steps down to about an 11-foot ceiling. And then there's room for some bigger beams and kind of a timberline lodge feel. And this style classified would be like kind of classic. There's some soft curves to it, but it's very rustic. So big, classic, rustic would be the style. There's the upstairs. Master's on the upstairs. There's the home. And then there's the timbers. So pretty rustic. There's a lot of timbers in the job. Any questions with what we've covered so far? Okay, who went to the Street of Dreams, or this is Parade of Home, Street of Dreams is Oregon, 2017 in Camas? Yeah, you might have. There was one job they give them names. This one they named the Timberline. And it won a lot of awards for the kitchen. I don't remember the particulars. I do remember. So what do you see that's kind of a little bit unique about the master bedroom setup? Mm-hmm. And they have a his and hers bathroom, kind of a closet. I mean, it's kind of divided. You don't have to, no longer have to talk about under, over, or how to squeeze toothpaste. That's kind of a neat little thing. Yeah. No, they shower. Oh, they might. Yeah, they share the shower. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this one has the upstairs on there, same plan. This is a little tiny guest bedroom up there. So here's the before and after. This one I want to spend a little bit of time on because there's one little linchpin on this design that made this all come together. Because the difference is pretty dramatic, right? But in essence, it kind of looks like the same house. So what's different?
Roof pitch.
Roof pitch. Boom. Maybe, maybe not. The roof pitch changed. What else? What's that? The windows changed. Over here, they Might just be blocked in the picture. I'm not sure that they changed. What was that?
They did it right.
Okay, yeah, for the closets, you're right. Okay. Yep. Any other things?
So was that taking a standard design and changing it, or that's an existing house and then it's changed?
This is working off of a blueprint.
Okay,
Yep, working off of a
so
blueprint.
it's a change up on the.
Yeah, and the reason we have a dog in the fight, so to speak, is if we can kind of influence the context and just make subtle changes to the context, like George worked with us on that for that house there. We work, and the timbers just fit. It's just easier to make them fit. But George noticed the pitch, and so they were wanting a Craftsman home, but it turned into kind of Craftsman Rustic. And rustic homes have a steeper pitch. I believe that the entry stayed, it might have raised up a bit. I don't quite remember, to your point. But, so the roof got steeper. And then the other piece with this, when it was in 3D design, this piece of the garage really was overpowering. So what we ended up doing was putting up 7-foot walls with scissor trusses for that little bedroom. And then that brought this gable end down. But what really made this not be such a sore thumb, make it look better, was this little flag roof that's just totally cosmetic. It's framed on top of the other roof, but it mimics this as well. So you get a little bit of tie-in with some flow. It's kind of built up and then built up, and it kind of just makes sense and flows. And nothing was really working until that piece got stuck in. And so kind of one of those eureka moments winter.
Was the chimney added, there wasn't one on the top?
Yeah, these might have been still in the preliminary stage. Yeah, I'm sure the chimney was gonna be added to this. But that was kind of a story behind that one, and then you can see that's the mother plan here with the timbers in the back and the living on the sides, bedrooms. And here's a plan. Well, let's see what do you guys like about this? What do you notice? Big garage, yeah. Yeah.
Extra lot.
Was that
What did you notice? Did you notice
No, I was
something?
gonna say, look, you need an extra lot to build up.
Oh, yeah, generally, a lot of the plans we work on are rural. Yeah, it's just not a city lot yet, acreage yet.
I like the garage, like that because it's semi-detached.
Uh-huh.
So just
Yeah.
the way it's in there, you split or whatever, make the way that there.
Yeah,
Look at the space of the, you look at the left side of the garage, that space, what's that?
that's the mechanical room.
So it's totally framed in front of it.
Yeah, you access it from the garage side, yeah. So this particular plan is kind of an industrial rustic Craftsman is where it kind of landed. And as far as the floor plan, you still have the main central area, your kitchen, and you got one bedroom here, and bedroom is kind of secondary, mainly the master bedroom here. On the one side with the privacy and all that you get with that. And there's a picture of the finished home. So with the different creative roof lines, it looks pretty stunning. And there's a picture of the great room. This is rusted metal. If you want to rust metal, is it salt, hydrogen peroxide? I don't remember the combination, but you can get it online.
Is that just for looks or is it actual part of the structure? The metal part?
The metal is part of the structure, and what you've got, a truss works like this. A truss is basically a triangle that pushes down and pushes down. And if something keeps bottom from spreading, you have a truss. And so these are down low and they lock in, so they function as a truss. There's about as ornate of or complicated as a mantle as you can get. Yeah. And there's the timber package. Okay, our last example here has 3 levels, so I just kind of walk you through it. The ADU, or the quarters for grandma, are down here. This is a 10,000 square foot house, so they had to get creative to fill it up. But this is for mama. This is Granny Flats ADU. They got their own garage down on the lower level. I don't know, is that 1,600 square feet? I'm not sure. Then they have the little rec room that connects to the main house on that side. And then here's the main plan. The master's here. Here was the main focus. The master bedroom was a unique ceiling, an arch, with the timbers arched like so, and they had a little keystone. It was that I remember is kind of a unique little thing, and only a couple beams, but it really did a lot for the room. Let me show you the upper plan. A lot of bedrooms up here, bonus over the garage. Can anyone guess what this is right here? You got a stairway, and then this is down right there. Maybe some fast bowling balls. It's a slide. You know, the kids, they got a sleeping bag and trying to go down the steps. Making a slide. And
Yeah, I was just gonna think of that.
here is the timber package. So pretty,
When you say timber packages, is that usually, you could, or price that out as a percentage of the overall house cost, or, I mean, it must be all over the place.
it really is all over the place. And in fact, the way we do business is we show people other projects, what other people have, signed proposals, what they've agreed to for their budget and their desires. And then that deposit goes to the timber package. And then once we accept the deposit, we work like dogs. We wear the ball and chain till the design comes home. And that takes many iterations, because we start off thinking, hey, but we have to work through things, get an education, and figure out what we don't want. And it's just part of the process. And sometimes it takes a little while, but what that does with that is we get to go through all the fluff and all the yings and the different terms. And then once we land on a design everyone likes, and that's when we can say, okay, here's what we're doing, and we can price it out. And then it's just kind of more fun. Do have as far as a guideline, as far as the 10%, as far as hybrid timber framing and that, we tell people that to get your house built, it shouldn't really exceed 10% of your overall cost for the timber package. And that's kind of just a rough guideline, but if someone wants to have more timbers and blow past that 10% mark, of course, we're not going to kick and scream. We might question, their budget, this is going up. Is that still relevant? Is it still going to work? So forth. But so the timber packages work. And then we got to get out and get pictures, but sometimes owners want to get their landscaping in, so it takes a while to get pictures, but that's it. On this particular job, I was out quite a bit later. The builder, he was a builder and he was building his own home. His employee had an excavator and he was doing some grading. And nailed that king post. Yeah, he sent me some pictures and it was and all over.
All over again.
And of course, he's kind of calling me up hat in hand. He's like, my guy did it, and how much is this gonna cost? And can you do it? Will you do it? And so I ended up, to save costs, I went out there by myself, loaded up tools. And he had a guy that helped me in the mornings or whatever, but I don't even remember the particulars, but I think that what I ended up doing was doing some sort of a scarf joint to replace the bottom of the post. And I don't remember how it all came out, but it was kind of like pulling teeth, leaving and going to do this. Like, but in the end, you know, when you take a challenge and then it works out, and everything came out, and it felt pretty good. Okay, before we go to question and answers, I would like to see, you know, does anyone notice, as far as our time together, does anyone have a note, something that like, well, this is something that I really appreciated learning, either from the tour or from the presentation here? Is there anything, any takeaway or anything that really stood out as valuable to you? If there's a brave soul here that would like to share, that'd be great. While you're thinking about that, I'll just summarize. We talked about the anti-bonking strategy. You guys that came late, you missed out. The anti-bonking strategy, talked about the ups and downs of the design build process. Then we have talked about different timber styles and timber frame floor plans, kind of balance, proportion, different ideas for floor plans. And that's kind of what we've covered. But anyone care to share anything that they've noticed, learned? Yes.
Just thinking about when you start the process, you start out with try to come up with a workable budget first before you start, because it seems like a lot of the stuff, you know, so, oh yeah, I'll do this, do that, and all of a sudden you get there and you go, oh, and then you start chopping off, and that never feels very good.
And I've seen other designers and companies do that, but I haven't really done that myself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That
I know in the diamond business,
yeah.
you never show a, you know, an expensive, really nice, and then try and if you do, you always put it away. Because you know, then the choices become, you know, real choices become way more of a hassle.
Right.
So it just seemed like most of this, or a lot of this, was we're looking at a lot of very expensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any room for a more modest entry level and working up? You know what I mean? To spread it out a little bit.
Yep. Okay, so you're asking about, is there something a little bit more modest, and then also, do we start
high, low, or
doing
low, high?
with the design process, and when we're talking to people, do we try to figure out where they want to end before we start designing?
Yeah, be realistic.
Yeah, be realistic.
It's hard to step back. Sometimes.
Yeah, it can, generally, we do exactly what you suggested, to try to start realistic. I don't know if it's 50% of the time, maybe Taylor can help me, but as the design gets going, people will keep tacking things on. Oh, they want an elevator, oh this, oh that. And you kind of try to sound the alarm and be the adult in the room, but it's all fun and games. And then you end up with something that people don't want to invest in to build. And that's really hard to rein enthusiasm back and be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, the now, children, voice, right?
Yeah.
And so, Taylor, is that 50% of the time, 25?
Maybe somewhere between, say, a third of the time.
Yeah, a third of the time.
Yeah.
Third of the time it starts, and then so many times, you know, negotiating or whatever. I mean, most people, when they're in the buying position, you kind of hold your cards tight. You don't want to say you're gonna spend $1 million and then, you might say you're looking at 750. And then, so knowing that, when people say they want X, Y, and Z extra, well, kind of taking that into consideration that, they probably have some extra money for extras. And so you're not dying on that hill that, no, we won't design this because it's gonna be more than 750. You kind of sound the alarm. Yeah.
Can you incorporate some of the design that would be actually part of the build and you're saving, because you're not, say, framing this part, you're gonna be using this, but it's gonna be more
A lot of pieces will be used as structure.
a structure, so,
Replacing.
and so it's not a full up, that's an add-on, it can be,
The trade-offs.
yeah.
There's a little bit of cost savings in that the timbers can be, taking the load of a glue lamp beam, for example, so you don't have to buy the beam.
Yeah, that's not.
In the big picture, there's the cost savings like that, but timber framing is an extra, and that those savings are negligible in the big picture. They're not really worth, as far as, it's not gonna move the needle big one way or the other. And then to the second part of your question, entry designs is something a little bit more modest. Taylor, I'm kind of wishing we had taken that one slide out.
I know.
We had a project in there that was, I loved it for what it showed in its small size, but yet really compact and big punching way over its weight.
Timber framing is not so much structural.
Generally, 80% of the time structural, but I never tried to sell it by saying, you do this and you're gonna save because of the glue lamp that you don't have to buy. Because the timbers add
Not just
for your painter, for the framing that's gotta be installed, it's another piece. They add in your investment, but as you've seen in the before and afters and whatnot, if you're after that, you're looking for that unique personality, capturing that and a look that will delight for years. And that's what rings the bell for us. Mhm.
One
Yes,
of the things that I always appreciated about you guys is it's kind of a kickback to a previous time when craftsmanship quality really meant something.
Mhm.
And I'm afraid a lot of people don't totally get that,
or value.
but it's there.
Yeah.
That's really the beauty
Okay,
of it.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that Craftsman piece. Mhm. Everyone can hear that? Yeah.
That
Cool.
makes sense.
What he just said, that my question might be something that works, but what makes this really cool is to learn. Like if you took that
Yes.
it'd
Mhm.
be interesting. But that.
How it fits in the big picture. Mhm. Yeah. For this project, this particular owner, this is the pavilion for him. So it's the second time we're working for him. And on his,
Actually, he's in the slideshow even. He's
Yeah.
one of the projects we showed in the middle.
yeah,
Which one?
oh, it's that one that had the entry for the dining room. They wish they had pulled it out.
Oh, yeah.
That particular project, when we did that, the owner came down to our shop and he wanted to help with it. So he helped fabricate one joint. And we labeled it on our paperwork so he could know which joint. And then when people were there, they did
I did that one.
Yep. And so kind of a lot of fun, but no, it was a pleasure to have that enthusiasm, like I mentioned at the start, is a real thing, and that's of course a big reason why we make sawdust every day. Mhm. You bet. Did we get some numbers for, we have drawing here.
Yeah, did anybody not put their name in the bowl?
I folded it up so you know which one to grab. We get a lot.
Yeah.
In case it gets buried.
How many is in there total? Oh, you're just gonna grab them, okay. Yeah. In the past, we've done a number randomizer. When people come in and got a number,
Oh, yeah.
then that is,
We're allowed to put in 2 or 3,
oh,
right?
certainly,
This is for a book.
okay?
Do?
You do, you do. Okay,
Let's see here. What sizes do we have here?
yeah, that's just swap the shirt.
Yeah, let's swap the shirt. What sizes? Large, extra large.
Do we like a sweater or a shirt? Give it a choice. The last sweaters are large, so don't fit.
That'll be the warm things.
You bet.
Yeah, let's do another one for. Albert Hanson.
Woo-hoo!
You like a shirt or book? All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah, let's do that. What do you got?
Book or a shirt? Thank you. Okay.
3 in a row. Yeah.
They're real comfortable shirts.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how about that? I'm not bitching.
Shirt or a book?
Sure, please, I got the book.
All right. We have any large- Is XL okay?
We've got other sizes than that. I'm probably like a large. Yeah.
My granddaughter's gonna steal it anyway.
Okay.
Let's do that.
And then we got one more book here, or a shirt if you haven't had a book. Kevin,
Book or shirt? Thank you guys so much.
Mhm. Okay, well, we've got plenty of food here, and you don't have to rush off unless you got something going. You can stay and talk to each other, talk to us. See, Bob is already sketching stuff here. Get an early start. But you've been a great audience. Thanks for bringing your enthusiasm. Oh, one more question.
What's the lead time when you sort of get it all going? I guess it depends on the sun.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the project and what's going on.
Weeks, months, years.
So here, let me answer it this way. From the time you and I decide we're meant to do business together, see an eyeball to eyeball, it's 2 years before we're making sawdust, average within the industry.
2 years?
2 years.
Could be dead by then.
We can speed that up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. It can go either way. I think the best people, the persons to draw your plans are the ones that you can communicate well with, They can kind of see what you're trying to do. That's, if you were to set up a brainstorm with us, it's 30 to 90 minutes. We can kind of explore options and talk about processes more in depth. And that might be a way to get started as far as trying a horse on for size. And then if it's not us, we have recommendations. That can happen at any point. If you've got a builder that you trust, and he knows the appliances you're gonna choose and the level of finish you're looking for, and he can help you dial in like what he thinks is gonna be per square foot, that's a huge asset.
Yeah.
So the builder can come in at any time. If you don't know the builder and don't have a relationship with them, most builders are gonna say, they're just gonna throw out a wide range because they don't know you, they don't know your level of finish. They don't know what you're actually gonna build. So to get too specific is just gonna put their tail in the crack. Most likely. So but anytime you can get good information that way, that's an asset. Well, here, let me qualify that. So the reason that it ends up being 2 years on average is people that are going for timber framing are generally not building their starter home. It's kind of more their forever home. So the mindset shifts, and so that they're just going to take more time with their decisions. And then, life happens. Maybe, maybe there's a marriage or some change and things that happen, or the property they had didn't work out, or there's just a lot of things that happen. And the mindset along with that is you're doing this once, you're going to take it a little slower, you're going to think things through, and all of that. So that's why it takes longer now. We have had jobs that start and go, and they really slam through it and get going. But so that's kind of your pace of decision making is really what drives the time. And you asked about lead time too. If we have the design done and engineering's done, the lead time is 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I mean, it's kind of generally it's not a problem because during the permit phase, we know what we're going to build. So our life's easy in that way. We can pick and choose. You've seen the storage racks out there. We can build kind of to our schedule and generally meet people's schedule.
So from when you have a finished set of plans, where you contributed to where the timbers go out the door, how long?
I'd say 4 weeks, maybe 6 is kind of pretty easy to meet.
1 to 2 months.
And it depends on, if the, rivers don't rise. No, it depends on where it's scheduled the time, right? But if we're working together and we know you have this window of time, we're gonna kind of hold that window for you and make sure there's a slot in there somewhere. So it generally doesn't hold people up.
Enough to,
Yes.
how long were you guys on that job up in Seattle on the lake? That was a spectacular job that was in the book and on the,
Oh, yeah, that Vashon Island,
yeah,
that was quite a job.
I was.
And you spoke of craftsmanship, George. And that job there, that guy had the resources, and everything was just tight. Handcrafted lamps. If you look in the book and see those pictures, just everything was just, as far as the craftsmanship, was just staggering. I mean, he went way beyond return on investment, but that pleased his heart, and it's a pleasure to behold. It really is.
Was the original building that you were adding on to and redoing, was that done with real fine craftsmanship also?
Not so much. No, that was
So rough.
strung together with immigrants, logs and vertical logs and different things. And so, but that's part of the rustic charm, and the fine craftsmanship on top of that. It's really created a one-of-a-kind project.
There's actually a video of that on on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
about
small
20 minutes
documentary on
long.
it.
It's really deep.
On our
into
YouTube
details.
channel.
It's cool.
Timber frame design and build?
Yep.
That's the YouTube
You
channel.
just type in air timber.
One of my questions is when you were talking about pre-staining and all that kind of stuff. My project is out on the Arch Cape on the coast.
Okay,
And one of my big concerns, I want to build a house out there. I don't want to build a project.
okay.
I'm concerned about, I know these beams will never weather apart or anything like that.
Right.
There's a certain amount of maintenance you have to apply
Mhm.
to the timber every couple of years.
Yep. Well, so there's different products out there. Some products kind of put like a real plastic coating, a real impervious coating on it. Timbers have to be totally dry before you do it, because any moisture trying to come out will penetrate that plasticky layer. That's not our preference. The product we use is a penetrating stain, and it needs 3 coats to have a good life of 3 to 5 years. And what we've seen the best is when the Mr. Homeowner, Mrs. Homeowner, every year, wherever the sun and the rain hits it, this product, you don't have to strip off. So you just, wherever the sun and the rain hits it, you just go add a coat. It's pretty painless in the spring, generally is when it's done, and when it's kind of gotten drier, a little bit hotter. And they just look like they always do, and every year, it just doesn't seem to change. It's like going for a haircut every 2 weeks instead of every 6, right?
I just don't want to end up with a project. you know,
Right.
that's-
Exactly.
Cedar.
Is that an oil-based product or wood-based?
It's oil-based, but it cleans up with water.
Yeah.
Never scrapes.
Yeah, how does that work? It does, I don't know. And it's, the thing that I like about it is it's some stains and whatnot, you can just kind of tell they're really soft. You know, kind of make your head swim. This is really pleasant to work with. It's made, it's a Timber Pro, it's a product we recommend and use. And it's made in the Northwest for the Northwest.
A friend of mine up in Canada exports a lot of houses to Japan.
You bet.
And he's checking, he's got one of their big because the Japanese.
Okay, well, why don't we just wrap this up? It's been a great audience. Give yourselves a round of applause. Clap, 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 clap. Yeah, thank you.
Fill it in, then he's got his sister.